Good morning, David. Good morning. During your time in Montreal, MLB considered retraction. You meant contraction, but that's okay. I love the question. During your time in Montreal, MLB considered retraction involving the Expos in Minnesota. What prompted this consideration? And do you consider the Rockies and perhaps Pittsburgh or Miami as possible contractees now? Thanks for your time. Well, Gary, I appreciate you. And other than telling you that it's contraction, not retraction, I want to bring you back to when I first started in baseball. One of my first owners' meetings as team president was during a relatively tense collective bargaining negotiation, and there were threats of contracting two teams, which is the equivalent of eliminating 50 jobs. And the union was not happy with that. Here's a little memory boost for all of you from the year 2000 and 2001. Contraction was a negotiating ploy. Two teams were never going to be contracted. There was a thought, was it going to be Florida at that time? The Marlins, John Henry didn't want to own them. He was like, all right, we can contract them. The Expos, they have no chance to survive in Montreal. Let's contract them. The Minnesota Twinkies, at the time, owned by the richest owner that existed. The Steve Cohen of baseball was a guy named Carl Pohlad, who owned the Minnesota Twins back in the day. His family owns it now. They're trying to sell it, can't get the right price. One day they will. Contraction was used to put fear in the union because, above all, your job is to maintain jobs. While there were negotiations with baseball over what a contraction price would be, it was all done in order to provide plausible deniability that it was just a ploy. So you could present documents to the union. Contraction's real, man. We're negotiating with Samson. We're negotiating with Pohlad and with Henry. This is no joke. We're talking about how we're going to redistribute the players who are on those teams. Do they just become free agents? Is there a draft by the remaining 28 teams? We're going through all sorts of contraction issues. Oh, side note, it was all a bunch of horse hockey. But it worked. Here's why they're not going to use it this time. Because baseball is way more focused on expansion. And you can't get expansion approved if it's a replacement. That's not expansion. Replacement is replacement. Replacement is sort of like relocation. They're not going down to 28 teams. They're going up to 32 teams. Now, there may be totally different cities involved. I also would like to point out that the Pittsburgh Pirates, one of the most historic franchises in baseball history, with one of the best pitchers, though he did get shelled his last outing. Well, shelled for him, giving up several home runs, like 3 home runs. Paul Skeens did. May have cost him the Cy Young already, but there's a long way to go. We're only 20% done with the baseball season. The Marlins have a set lease until 2000 and I want to say 38. If my recollection was a 30-year lease starting 2009, though it could have been 30 years from when it first started in 2012, which would be 2042. I can go back to my books right behind me, which have the actual lease, so I can go look. It would be in the non-relocation agreement for those of you looking for the public documents, which are completely available to the public, which is how you know when a deal gets done, because you've got publicly available full documents. Full. Not like Vegas style. Not like Washington, D.C. style. I'm talking fully executed, fleshed out, multi-100-page documents available for you. All for you. The reason why, Gary, that there will be no even threat of contraction is that the reason you threat something during collective bargaining is when it is your view that that threat will lead to a concession, will lead to a change of position. And in order for that to happen, then the threat has to be a credible threat. The threat has to be one that the other side in the negotiation. So, for example, when you're fighting with your spouse and you say, you know what? I'm never going to watch another sporting event. Like, what? And of course you're lying. That's not even credible. Of course you're going to. I will never listen to that Samson guy again.